The stars twinkled in the vast emptiness of space as the Galactic Council's diplomatic vessel glided silently toward the small blue planet. Earth wasn't supposed to be special. It was just another world in an unremarkable solar system, orbiting an average yellow star. Yet Ambassador Zixtral felt nervous as he prepared for humanity's first contact with the wider galactic community. "We are approaching Earth orbit," announced the pilot, a slender Viridian like Zixtral, but with paler skin that reflected the ship's blue lights. "Have they detected us yet?" asked the ambassador, his four eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of anxiety among his kind. "Yes. Their primitive scanners noticed us passing their moon. They are sending radio messages asking for identification." Zixtral nodded. "It's time then. Send the greeting package through their communications channels." For thousands of years, the Galactic Council had followed the same procedure when welcoming new species. 17 different civilizations had joined over the millennia, each bringing unique perspectives and technologies. First contact was usually a celebration, a momentous occasion when a species learned they weren't alone in the universe. But this time was different. The data the Council had gathered about Earth was troubling. "Ambassador, their ship is approaching," said the science officer Krill. "Only one vessel, small crew, exactly as requested in our message." On the main screen, a white spacecraft appeared. It was bulky and inelegant by Council standards, with large thrusters and visible welding marks on its hull. The words Endeavor and United Earth Space Command were painted on its side. "Such primitive construction," muttered Krill. "I'm amazed it functions in space at all." "Don't underestimate them," warned Zixtral. "Remember the report." The report. Every council member had read it multiple times, and each reading brought fresh waves of disbelief. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, a planet with conditions so hostile that no council species could survive there unaided. High gravity, extreme temperature variations, dangerous levels of oxygen, and countless lethal organisms. By all logical standards, intelligent life shouldn't have evolved in such a nightmarish environment. Yet it had. "They're requesting visual communication," said the communications officer. Zixtral straightened his ceremonial robes. "Accept the request." The screen flickered, revealing a human face. The being had only 2 eyes, a flat nose, and exposed teeth visible when it spoke, features that would signal aggression or disease in most council species. "This is Captain John Miller of the Earth vessel Endeavor," said the human. His voice was deeper than any Viridian's, sending subtle vibrations through the ship's speakers. "We come in peace and friendship." Zixtral performed the traditional greeting gesture, spreading his 4 arms in a circle. "I am Ambassador Zixtral of the Galactic Council. We too come in peace and wish to welcome humanity to the galactic community." Despite the practiced words, Zixtral studied the human with growing unease. According to the biological scans, this fragile-looking creature could survive injuries that would kill a Viridian instantly. It could run for hours without rest, drink water that would poison most species, and endure temperature ranges that seemed impossible. "We're honored by your visit," said Miller, smiling. The facial expression exposed more teeth, making several crew members flinch. "We've prepared a small delegation as requested. With your permission, we'd like to dock and meet face to face." "Permission?" "Granted," said Zixtral. "Our docking bay is ready to receive you." As the communication ended, the science officer approached the ambassador. "Are we certain this is wise, allowing them aboard?" "We have no choice. The council was clear. Full diplomatic protocol must be followed. But the gravity requirements alone have been adjusted in the meeting chamber," interrupted Zixtral. "Everything has been prepared according to Earth standards." The truth was more complicated. The ship had been specially constructed for this mission, with reinforced decks to handle the heavier footsteps of humans and enhanced life support to manage the toxic oxygen levels they needed. No expense had been spared to accommodate these strange beings. 30 minutes later, Zixtral stood nervously as the airlock cycled. The delegation from Earth would be the first humans any council member had seen in person. Behind him, security, Personnel stood at alert, though their weapons remained hidden as diplomatic protocol required. The door slid open. 5 humans entered the chamber, each wearing a blue uniform with different insignia. They moved with a fluid grace that seemed at odds with their solid frames. Leading them was Captain Miller, taller in person than he had appeared on screen. "Ambassador Zixtral," said Miller, bowing slightly. "Thank you for welcoming us aboard. Your vessel." Zixtral performed the greeting gesture again. "Captain Miller, it is my honor to be the first to welcome humanity to the stars." A woman stepped forward, her hair bound behind her head in what humans called a ponytail. "Dr. Olivia Wright, xenobiologist," she said, extending her hand. Zixtral had been briefed on this custom and carefully extended one arm to touch hands with the human. Her skin was warm, warmer than any Viridian's, and the strength in her gentle grip was alarming. The other humans introduced themselves: Lieutenant Ben Harris, security, Dr. Richard Young, linguist, and Maria Diaz, diplomatic officer. "Please follow me to the meeting chamber," said Zixtral. "We have much to discuss." As they walked through the corridor, Zixtral noticed Dr. Wright studying everything with intense curiosity. When she realized he was watching her, she smiled. "Your ship is beautiful," she said. "I've dreamed of this moment my entire life, meeting beings from another world." "As have I," replied Zixtral, though his dreams had been very different from the reality now walking beside him. In the meeting chamber, the humans sat at the specially reinforced table. They seemed comfortable in the ship's atmosphere, though it had been carefully adjusted to match Earth's composition, a mix that would kill most council species without protective equipment. "Before we begin formal discussions," said Miller, "we've brought gifts from Earth as a gesture of friendship." Maria Diaz opened a container revealing several items: a small globe of Earth, data crystals containing human music and art, and packets of seeds from various Earth plants. "We thought you might be interested in our world's biodiversity," explained Dr. Wright, holding up a seed packet. "These are harmless decorative flowers that should be compatible with most environments." Zixtral accepted the gifts graciously, though he knew the seeds would be thoroughly analyzed before anyone considered planting them. Earth's biology was as frightening as its inhabitants. "We have prepared something for you as well," said Zixtral, gesturing to an aide who brought forward a crystal sphere that glowed with soft light. "This contains star charts of council space and a history of our member species." As the diplomatic exchange continued, Zixtral couldn't help but notice how the humans reacted to everything with enthusiasm and curiosity. They asked thoughtful questions, laughed often, and showed none of the fear that gripped his own heart. They don't know, he realized. They don't understand how different they are. To these humans, their strength, endurance, and resilience were normal. They had no idea that the Council saw them as walking nightmares, creatures evolved from a planet that should have killed them before they ever developed intelligence. By the end of the meeting, formal invitations had been extended for a human delegation to visit the Council's central hub station. Captain Miller accepted with obvious excitement. As the humans prepared to return to their ship, Dr. Wright paused beside Zixtral. "Ambassador," she said quietly, "I notice your species seems somewhat nervous around us. Have we done something to cause concern?" Zixtral hesitated. "Not at all, Dr. Wright. First contacts always involve some adjustment." She smiled, but her eyes showed she wasn't convinced. "Of course, we look forward to learning more about each other." After the humans departed, Zixtral retired to his private chamber and immediately sent an encrypted message to the Council. First contact established. Humans appear peaceful and eager for cooperation. They show no awareness of their biological uniqueness or the threat they potentially represent. Delegation will arrive at Central Hub in 20 cycles. Recommend extreme caution, but continued diplomatic approach. These beings could become our greatest allies or our worst nightmare. Either way, the galaxy will never be the same. The human delegation arrived at the Galactic Council's central hub station 2 weeks after first contact. The massive structure orbited a neutron star, drawing energy from its powerful radiation while housing representatives from all 17 council species. Captain Miller and his crew stared in wonder as their ship approached the station. "It's beautiful," whispered Dr. Olivia Wright as she pressed her face against the viewport. The station resembled a giant silver snowflake, with 6 main arms extending from a central core. Each arm glowed with thousands of lights, and ships of various designs moved around it like bees around a hive. "And enormous," added Ben Harris. "That thing must be bigger than Manhattan." Their Earth vessel, the Endeavour, looked tiny and primitive as it approached the designated docking port. A guide beam locked onto their ship, gently pulling them into a massive hangar filled with spacecraft of every shape and size. "Remember the briefing," said Captain Miller as they prepared to disembark. "We represent all of Earth here. Let's make a good impression." The 5 humans walked down the Endeavour's ramp and onto the station floor. A delegation waited for them, led by Ambassador Zixtral and several other aliens of different species. The variety was stunning, some tall and slender, others short and stout, with skin colors ranging from deep blue to pale gold. "Welcome to Central Hub," said Zixtral, performing the 4-armed greeting gesture. "Allow me to introduce High Counselor Kreenan of the Moxarian species." Kreenan stepped forward. He resembled a humanoid amphibian with smooth green skin and large lidless eyes. "Humans of Earth," he said through a translator device. "Your presence honors us. The Council has prepared quarters for your stay and arranged for a full biological exchange of information." Dr. Wright's eyes lit up at this news. As the ship's xenobiologist, the chance to study alien physiology was a dream come true. "We're eager to share knowledge," she said. "We've brought detailed information about Earth's ecosystems and biology." The aliens exchanged glances that seemed nervous, though it was hard to read their expressions. "Excellent," said Kreenan. "Our science division is most interested in your unique biology." After settling into their quarters, which had been specially prepared with Earth normal gravity and atmosphere, the humans were escorted to the science wing. The facility was impressive, a vast laboratory filled with equipment that seemed far advanced beyond Earth technology. Chief Science Officer Veltor, a tall being with 6 limbs and silvery fur, greeted them. "We would like to perform basic biological scans with your permission," he said. "Non-invasive, of course." "Of course," agreed Dr. Wright. "We're eager to learn about our differences and similarities." The humans took turns standing and scanning chambers while alien scientists observed the results on holographic displays. With each scan, the aliens' reactions grew more pronounced. Whispered conversations, darting glances, and what seemed like expressions of alarm. After her scan, Dr. Wright approached Veltor. "Is something wrong with our biology?" she asked directly. The alien scientist hesitated before answering. "Not wrong. Simply unexpected. Would you mind demonstrating some physical capabilities? Perhaps Lieutenant Harris could show us human strength and endurance?" Ben Harris, the security officer, shrugged. "Sure, what would you like me to do?" A simple physical exercise routine would be informative. They moved to a larger room where Harris began with basic exercises: push-ups, sit-ups, and jumping jacks. To his surprise, the alien observers moved back, creating more distance between themselves and him. Some even touched devices on their wrists, which Harris guessed might be personal shields or protection of some kind. "Is this making you uncomfortable?" he asked, stopping mid-push-up. "Please continue," said Veltor. "We are merely observing." After Harris finished, Dr. Young, the linguist, noticed a display screen showing what appeared to be comparative biology charts. Though the writing was in an alien script, the images clearly showed a human figure alongside representatives of various council species. "May I ask what these charts represent?" he inquired. Veltor seemed reluctant to explain, but finally answered. "These are comparative trauma survival rates. We were calculating the amount of physical damage each species can endure before cessation of life functions." "You mean how much injury we can survive?" clarified Young. "Precisely." Captain Miller joined the conversation. "And how do humans compare?" The room fell silent. Finally, Kreenan, who had been observing from a distance, stepped forward. "Captain Miller, Your species evolved on what we classify as a Class 12 death world. The conditions on Earth, its gravity, atmospheric pressure, temperature variations, radiation levels, and abundance of predators, would kill most council species within minutes without extensive protection. The humans exchanged surprised glances. "Earth isn't that bad," said Maria Diaz with a nervous laugh. "To us it is a nightmare," replied Krenon. "And as a result, your bodies have developed capabilities that are concerning. Your bone density is 3 times greater than council average. Your muscles can exert forces that would tear our limbs apart. You can survive radiation doses that would kill most of us instantly. Your blood clotting mechanism is so efficient that you can continue functioning despite injuries that would be immediately fatal to us." The humans stood in stunned silence as they realized the truth. The aliens weren't merely curious about them, they were afraid. Dr. Wright broke the tension by reaching into her bag and pulling out a vacuum-sealed package. "I brought some treats. From Earth," she said. "Would anyone like to try chocolate?" The offer was met with nervous looks until one brave scientist, a small purple-skinned being, stepped forward. "I would be honored to sample human food." Wright opened the package and broke off a small piece of chocolate, offering it to the alien, who carefully analyzed it with a handheld device before placing it in what appeared to be a mouth on its neck. The alien's eyes widened suddenly. "This contains theobromine and caffeine. These are toxins." "Oh, I'm so sorry," said Wright, alarmed. "I didn't realize you consume neurotoxins." "For pleasure?" asked Veltor, his voice rising in pitch. "Well, yes," admitted Wright. "Caffeine is in our coffee and tea. Many humans drink it daily." This revelation caused more murmuring among the aliens. One scientist backed away slowly. "Perhaps we should continue this exchange tomorrow," suggested Ambassador Zixitral, clearly trying to calm the situation. "Our guests must be tired from their journey." As they were escorted back to their quarters, Captain Miller pulled his crew close. "I think we need to be more careful," he whispered. "It seems we're a lot more intimidating than we realized." "Did you see their faces when I was just doing push-ups?" asked Harris. "You'd think I was threatening them." "To them, maybe you were," said Dr. Wright thoughtfully. "Imagine if you met a species that could bench press a car without effort. Wouldn't that make you nervous?" Back in their quarters, humans discussed their situation while alien scientists across the station reviewed the day's findings with growing concern. Reports spread quickly through the central hub. Humans were walking biological marvels, or monsters, depending on one's perspective. In his private chamber, High Counselor Krenon reviewed the reports with Ambassador Zixtral. "They seem peaceful," said Zixtral, "and they appear genuinely unaware of how different they are." "Which makes them more dangerous, not less," replied Krenon. "They don't know their own strength. And their history." He gestured to a display showing Earth's violent past. "They've fought wars that would have driven any council species to extinction. Yet they survived, adapted, continued. What do you recommend?" Krenon stared at the biological scans of the humans. "We continue diplomatic relations, but with caution. Very great caution, and we begin preparing just in case." "In case of what?" "In case these humans are not the friends we hope for, but the nightmare we fear." 6 months passed since first contact. Earth had established a permanent embassy on the central hub, and several council representatives now resided on Earth. The initial fear of humans had not disappeared, but it had been tempered by growing familiarity. No human had yet harmed any alien, despite the Council's worries. Today marked an important step in human-alien relations, the first joint engineering project. A small team of humans would visit a Zilonian manufacturing facility to exchange industrial techniques. The team consisted of Security Officer Kelly Thompson, Engineer Peter Davis, and Diplomat Frank Carter. They boarded a Zilonian shuttle piloted by 2 blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms each. "Thank you for the opportunity to visit your facility," said Frank Carter, using his translator. "We hope this exchange will benefit both our peoples." This Zilonian captain named Ziv nodded politely but kept his distance. After 6 months, the humans had grown used to this behavior from most alien species. They still think we might accidentally break them, whispered Kelly to Peter as they took their seats. Can you blame them? Peter replied. Remember when that Viridian ambassador saw you open a jar with your bare hands? I thought he was going to faint. The journey to the Zolonian manufacturing moon took 3 hours. Upon arrival, the humans marveled at the vast facility that stretched across the gray landscape. Massive machines extracted minerals from the moon's surface and transformed them into building materials for spacecraft. Foreman Drell, a senior Zolonian with deep blue skin and gold-flecked eyes, greeted them at the landing pad. Welcome, humans. We are honored by your visit. Please follow all safety protocols during your tour. This facility was not designed with your particular biology in mind. The humans understood the hidden meaning. The facility wasn't built to withstand human strength or clumsiness. They had heard this warning many times before. We'll be careful, promised Frank. The tour proceeded smoothly at first. Peter Davis was fascinated by the Zolonian manufacturing techniques, which used vibration frequencies to reshape metals without heat. Kelly Thompson observed the facility's security measures with professional interest, while Frank facilitated communication between the two groups. As they entered the main production floor, Foreman Drell explained the various machines and processes. The humans noticed that the Zolonian workers kept glancing at them nervously. Your methods are impressive, said Peter. On Earth, we would use heat and pressure for this kind of metal forming. Heat is inefficient and dangerous, replied Drell. Vibration allows for more precise control and less energy waste. Peter was about to ask another question when a loud alarm suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red lights flashed on the walls. What's happening? Asked Kelly, instantly alert. Drell checked a device on his wrist. Structural instability detected in Section 7. That's 2 levels above us. His voice remained calm, but his eyes widened with concern. Before anyone could respond, a violent tremor shook the floor. Dust fell from the ceiling and the tremors intensified. Evacuation protocol initiated, announced a computerized voice in the Zolonian language, which their translators converted to English. All personnel proceed to emergency shelters. The Zolonian workers moved quickly toward the exit, but not in panic. They had clearly drilled for such emergencies. Another, stronger tremor hit. Above them, a loud crack echoed through the chamber as a support beam began to split. The humans looked up to see a massive metal structure starting to give way, directly, over a group of Zolonian workers who hadn't yet reached the exit. Without hesitation, Kelly Thompson and Peter Davis rushed forward, pushing past surprised Zolonians. The support beam fractured further, beginning its collapse. The 2 humans positioned themselves directly under the failing structure and raised their arms. As the heavy beam fell, they caught it with their bare hands, their bodies straining under the enormous weight. Get out! Kelly shouted to the Zolonian workers who stood frozen in shock. We can't hold this forever. The aliens snapped out of their surprise and hurried toward safety. Frank Carter helped guide them out, while Kelly and Peter continued to support the beam that would have crushed the Zolonians instantly. On 3, we moved toward that support column, grunted Kelly through clenched teeth. 1, 2, 3. Together they shuffled sideways, still holding the massive weight, until they reached a stable column. With a final effort, they maneuvered the beam into a position where it wouldn't collapse further, then quickly moved away themselves. When they reached the emergency shelter, they found all the Zolonians staring at them in silence. It wasn't the usual look of nervous caution. It was something deeper, something like awe. Foreman Drell approached them slowly. You saved those workers, he said, his voice trembling slightly. The beam would have killed them instantly. Peter shrugged, rubbing his sore shoulders. Anyone would have done the same. No, said Drell firmly. No one could have done what you did. No species in the Council possesses such physical strength, and no species would instinctively risk death for members of another species. The humans exchanged uncomfortable glances. To them, their actions seemed natural and obvious. Of course you would try to save lives if you could. It wasn't that heavy, said Kelly, trying to downplay the incident. A Zolonian engineer stepped forward. That support beam weighs approximately 2,700 of your Earth kilograms. Our structural analysis indicates that 2 Zolonians would be crushed attempting to support even half that weight. The shelter fell silent again as this information sank in. The humans had done something the aliens considered physically impossible, and had done it instinctively to save others. Later that day, after the facility had been secured and repair teams had begun their work, the 3 humans sat in the guest quarters discussing the incident. "Did you see their faces?" asked Frank. "You'd think we performed a miracle." "I'm more concerned about what happens next," said Kelly. "Every time we do something like this, they look more scared of us." "Not just scared this time," said Peter, thoughtfully. "They were amazed. The way people look at superheroes in movies." Meanwhile, Foreman Drell was sending an urgent report to the central hub. The report described in detail how 2 humans had manually supported a structural beam weighing over 2 tons, and how they had done so to protect Zolonian workers. Aliens, they barely knew. The report spread quickly through the Council communication networks. With each retelling, the story grew. By the next day, most Council species had heard about the super-strong humans who could hold up falling buildings and who risked death to save other species. On Earth, the incident barely made the news, just a minor mention about a quick response by human representatives during an industrial accident. But throughout the galaxy, the story reinforced what many aliens already feared. Humans were not just physically superior, they were unpredictable in their willingness to place themselves in danger. Council security analysts added the incident to a growing file labeled Human Biological and Behavioral Anomalies. The file was becoming thicker by the day. In his private quarters on the central hub, High Counselor Kreenan reviewed the latest report with growing concern. These humans were either the greatest allies the galaxy had ever seen, or the most dangerous species ever encountered. Perhaps they were both. 8 months after first contact, diplomacy between humans and the Galactic Council continued to progress. Trade agreements were being negotiated, cultural exchanges had begun, and the initial fear of humans had settled into a cautious respect. However, not everyone in the galaxy welcomed these newcomers. In the lawless region known as the Draxian Outlands, a group of space pirates watched the growing human-council relations with interest. The pirates, led by the notorious Captain Vrax, saw opportunity where others saw danger. "These humans are causing quite a stir," said Vrax. A tall, gray-skinned alien with sharp teeth and yellow eyes, he addressed his crew on the bridge of their ship, the Shadow Claw. "The Council treats them like walking weapons." "Are they really as dangerous as the stories say?" asked his first mate, a bulky reptilian named Korth. Vrax grinned, showing his pointed teeth. "We're about to find out. Our spies report that a diplomatic vessel is traveling from Earth to the central hub. On board are both human and council representatives, including Ambassador Nicole Harris of Earth." "A high-value target," said Korth. "Indeed. The ransom alone would make us rich, and if we can capture live humans." Vrax's eyes gleamed with greed. "Think how much certain parties would pay to study such specimens." 2 days later, the diplomatic vessel Harmony cruised through what was considered safe space. On board, Ambassador Nicole Harris reviewed documents with her communications specialist, Eric Johnson. "The Council is still hesitant about allowing human ships in the Proxima sector," said Nicole, frowning at her screen. Eric nodded. "They claim it's because of navigation hazards, but we know it's because their military base is there." "They still don't fully trust us," sighed Nicole. 8 months of peaceful relations and they still treat us like we might suddenly go berserk. Can you blame them? Last week, Bill from engineering sneezed in the cafeteria, and 3 Viridians activated their personal shields. Nicole laughed, but their conversation was interrupted by a violent shudder that ran through the ship. Alarms began to blare. "We're under attack," came the captain's voice over the intercom. "All personnel secure yourselves immediately." Nicole and Eric rushed to the window and saw a large black ship firing upon them. The Harmony's shields flared with each hit. "Pirates," whispered Nicole. She had been briefed about the dangers of the Draxian Outlands, though they were supposed to be nowhere near that region. Before they could reach a secure area, a massive blast rocked the Harmony. The lights flickered and died, replaced by dim emergency lighting. The ship's engines fell silent. "They've disabled our power systems," said Eric, his security training kicking in. "We need to—" He was interrupted by a loud hissing sound as the hull was breached in multiple locations. Through the breaches came armed figures in spacesuits, the pirates boarding their disabled vessel. Despite the crew's resistance, the pirates quickly overwhelmed them with superior numbers and weapons. Nicole, Eric, and the rest of the diplomats, both human and alien, were rounded up and transferred to the pirate vessel. They found themselves locked in a large cargo hold converted into a makeshift prison. The space was bare except for a few benches along the walls. About 20 prisoners were crowded inside, 5 humans and 15 aliens from various council species. Captain Vrax entered the hold, flanked by armed guards. He surveyed his captives with satisfaction. "Welcome aboard the Shadowclaw," he said through a universal translator. "You are now my prisoners. Your governments have been contacted with our ransom demands. Until they are met, you will remain here." "Our governments don't negotiate with pirates," said Nicole, stepping forward despite Eric's attempt to hold her back. Vrax approached her, his tall frame looming over her. "You must be the human ambassador. I've heard much about your species." He reached out and roughly grabbed her arm, squeezing it as if testing its firmness. "Not so impressive up close." Nicole winced but didn't pull away. "Release us immediately. This act violates multiple galactic laws." Vrax laughed. "Laws don't apply in the Outlands, human." He turned to his crew. "Set life support to minimum. No need to waste resources on prisoners." After the pirates left, locking the heavy door behind them, the captives assessed their situation. "Is everyone all right?" asked Nicole, looking around at the group. Most nodded, but several of the alien diplomats appeared to be struggling. A Viridian representative was breathing rapidly, his 4 eyes blinking in distress. "What's wrong?" Eric asked him. "The atmosphere," gasped the Viridian. "Too thin, temperature too low." Eric and Nicole exchanged worried glances. They had noticed the air felt stale and cool, but it wasn't severely uncomfortable for them. For the Council aliens, however, it was clearly causing distress. "The pirates must have set life support for their own species," said Nicole. "They probably don't realize that different species have different requirements." "Or they don't care," added Eric grimly. Over the next few hours, the situation deteriorated. The alien diplomats grew weaker as the environmental conditions, merely uncomfortable for humans, proved increasingly dangerous for them. The Moxarian delegate had collapsed, his green skin turning a sickly pale color. "We need to do something," said Nicole, checking on a Zolonian who was shivering uncontrollably. "They're dying." Eric had been examining the door and walls of their prison. "I might have an idea," he said quietly. "These restraints they put on us, they're designed for council species." He showed Nicole his wrists, where metal bands had been locked. "They're too loose. I think I can slip out of them." "Even if you can." "The door is locked from the outside," whispered Nicole. "True, but I noticed something when they brought us in. The ventilation system. The grates are large enough for someone to crawl through. If I can reach the life support controls." Nicole looked at the alien diplomats, who were getting worse by the minute. "Do it." With careful maneuvering, Eric managed to slip one hand free of his restraints. The bands had been designed for the thinner wrists of typical council species, not accounting for human bone structure. Once free, he helped Nicole escape her restraints as well. "I'll try to find the life support controls and adjust them," he said. "You keep everyone as comfortable as possible." "Be careful," said Nicole. "If they catch you—" Eric nodded grimly. He knew what pirates might do to an escaped prisoner. He moved to the ventilation grate in the corner of the ceiling, quietly removed it, and pulled himself up into the narrow duct. As he disappeared into the ship's ventilation system, Nicole turned her attention to the suffering aliens, trying to keep them alive until help arrived. Meanwhile, in another part of the ship, Captain Vrax received a disturbing report from his security officer. "The human prisoner is missing?" he growled. "How is that possible?" "The restraints were found empty," said the nervous officer, "and one of the ventilation grates has been removed." Vrax's yellow eyes narrowed. "Find that human. Now." Little did he know that the stories about human capabilities were about to prove themselves true, in ways the pirates had never anticipated. Eric Johnson crawled through the narrow ventilation ducts of the pirate ship. His military training before becoming a communications specialist proved useful now. He moved quietly, mapping the ship's layout in his mind as he went. The metal ducts were barely wide enough for his shoulders, and several times he had to force himself through tight corners. For a larger alien like Captain Vrax, these passages would be completely impassable. This gave Eric an advantage. After 15 minutes of careful navigation, he reached a junction where he could hear voices below. Peering through a grate, he saw two pirates monitoring control panels in what appeared to be an engineering room. "Life support is still at minimum," said one pirate. "Captain says to keep it that way until we reach the base." "What about the prisoners?" asked the other. "The council species won't last long in those conditions." The first pirate shrugged. "Not our problem. Captain only cares about the ransom." Eric continued past this room. He needed to find either the life support controls or a way to contact help. As he crawled further, the ship suddenly lurched, throwing him against the side of the duct. He bit his lip to keep from crying out as pain shot through his shoulder. The pirates had jumped to faster-than-light travel. This meant they were taking their prisoners deeper into the outlands, away from any potential rescue. Finally, Eric found what he was looking for, a larger service area with access to various ship systems. He carefully removed the grate and dropped down, finding himself alone in a maintenance room filled with control panels and equipment. He quickly located the life support controls and adjusted them to increase oxygen levels and temperature throughout the ship. This would help the alien diplomats survive, but it would also alert the pirates that something was wrong. Working rapidly, Eric located a communication console. Years of experience as a communications specialist made it possible for him to understand the alien technology. He bypassed the security systems and sent out a distress signal with their coordinates and situation. Just as he finished, the door slid open. A pirate stood there, weapon raised in surprise. "What are you?" the pirate began, but Eric was already moving. With speed that would have shocked any council species, he crossed the room and tackled the pirate. They fought briefly, but human strength proved superior. Eric subdued the pirate and took his weapon and communication device. Now armed, Eric made a difficult decision. Rather than returning to the prison hold, he would try to reach the bridge and take control of the ship. Meanwhile, in the prison hold, Nicole Harris was doing her best to help the suffering alien diplomats. The Moxarian delegate lay unconscious, while a Viridian gasped for breath. Suddenly, the air quality noticeably improved and the temperature began to rise. "Eric did it," she said to herself, feeling hope for the first time since their capture. A Zolonian diplomat looked at her with newfound respect. "Your companion. How did he escape the restraints?" Nicole smiled. "They weren't designed for human wrists. We have different bone structures than most council species." The aliens exchanged glances, seemingly re-evaluating their understanding of humans yet again. On the bridge, Captain Vrax received alarming reports. "Someone has adjusted the life support settings," said his engineer through the communication system. "The human," growled Vrax. "Find him." "There's more," continued the engineer. A distress signal was sent out. Council ships might already be on their way. Vrax slammed his fist on the control panel. "Impossible! How could one human cause so much trouble?" Before anyone could respond, the bridge door slid open, and Eric Johnson stepped through, pirate, weapon in hand. "Everyone stay where you are," he commanded. The bridge crew froze, shocked by his sudden appearance. Captain Vrax recovered quickly and drew his own weapon. "You're outnumbered, human," he snarled. "Drop your weapon or die." Eric didn't move. "Your ship is surrounded by council vessels. They received my distress call and will board if I don't. Send an all-clear signal in the next 5 minutes." This was a bluff, but Vrax couldn't know that. The pirate captain hesitated. Eric continued, "Release all prisoners now, and I'll recommend leniency when the council arrives." For a tense moment, no one moved. Then Vrax made his decision. He fired his weapon directly at Eric. What happened next would become legendary throughout the galaxy. Eric didn't just dodge the shot. He moved with such speed that several pirates later claimed he seemed to blur. He fired back with perfect accuracy, hitting Vrax's weapon hand. The pirate captain roared in pain and lunged forward, revealing his species' natural advantages, claws and immense strength. But he had never fought a human before. The battle that followed was brief but intense. Despite Vrax's size and natural weapons, Eric's combat training, combined with human strength and reflexes, proved superior. Within moments, the pirate captain lay defeated on the bridge floor, and Eric stood holding both their weapons. "Now," said Eric calmly to the stunned bridge crew, "you're going to release all prisoners and set course back to council space." Too shocked to resist, the pirates complied. They had just witnessed something they thought impossible. Their captain, the feared Vrax, defeated in hand-to-hand combat by a human who should have been no match for him. 2 hours later, council security vessels intercepted the pirate ship. They were astonished to find the humans had already taken control and were bringing the ship in themselves. When the council forces boarded, they found Ambassador Nicole Harris calmly sitting in the captain's chair with Eric Johnson standing beside her. The pirates were secured in their own holding cells. "How did you—" began the council security commander, a veteran Zilonian who had seen everything in his long career. He stopped, unable to finish the question. Nicole smiled. "We just did what needed to be done." News of the incident spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The story grew with each retelling. 2 unarmed humans had overpowered an entire ship of pirates, saved diplomatic hostages, and delivered notorious criminals to justice. 1 month later, the Galactic Council convened a special session. The main chamber was filled to capacity as representatives of all 17 species gathered to witness an unprecedented event. High Counselor Kreenan stood before the assembly, his amphibian features solemn. "After careful consideration of recent events, the Council has made a unanimous decision," he announced. "Earth will be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, effective immediately." A murmur ran through the crowd. Full membership usually took decades to achieve. "Additionally," continued Kreenan, "humans will be granted a special designation never before assigned to any species." The chamber fell silent. From this day forward, humanity will be officially recognized as a guardian species of the Galactic Council, tasked with the protection and defense of all member worlds. Captain Lisa Ford of the newly commissioned Earth vessel Constellation accepted the designation on behalf of humanity. As she stood before the gathered representatives, she noticed something had changed in how the aliens looked at humans. The fear was still there. How could it not be, given what they knew of human capabilities? But now it was mixed with something else: respect, gratitude, and perhaps even hope. "We accept this honor and responsibility," she said simply, "and we promise to use our unique abilities to protect, not to harm." As she spoke these words, messages were already being sent to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, carrying news that would make even the most aggressive species think twice before causing trouble. This sector is under human protection. And throughout the vast expanse of space, those words carried more weight than fleets of warships ever could, because everyone now knew what humans were capable of, and what they stood for. And